and welcome to the Film Forum. I'm Steve Markos. With me, as usual, Aron Siegel. We're going to review a lot of films here tonight.
We're doing a whole bunch of films, Steve. It's movies, movies, movies again.
Yes, this is our second show of the new season. We're here in Fulton and DeKalb County now, so hopefully there's a lot of DeKalb Countyites.
And we are a live call-in show. Our number here is 873-6713. So if you have any comments or questions about our show, or if you'd like to tune in and give us some comments or questions or whatever, just call.
All right. And because this is our second show, we were off for like 5 weeks. We're trying to get caught up. We're going to review films tonight. What do we have for the audience tonight? Why should they stick around to watch us?
Well, Steve, we've got about 5 or 6 films. I'm not going to mention them all.
No, we're not? All right.
I'm going to mention a couple of them, though. How
about
that?
Well, let's just tell us the one we're going to start with.
We're going to start with The Scout, Steve.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about The Scout.
Okay, from 20th Century Fox, we've got The Scout, which stars Albert Brooks as a scout for the New York Yankees who's had a lot of hard luck recently. He keeps running into players that he signs with the Yankees that end up either throwing up, getting nervous, or running home. So he's looking for a miracle. He finds Brendan Fraser, who is Steve Nebraska in this film. And Steve is exactly the perfect baseball player. He has an over 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and he hits home runs every time he's at the plate. Let's take a look at a scene from The Scout.
What are you doing? Steve. So you're all alone here? Well, you're here now. Well, yes, I am. And thank God for that. So what do you think, Nebraska? Want to be a New York Yankee?
Want to make some money?
Would you make some money? You'll be one of the richest men in the world. You're King Kong. You've got it all. New York's going to go crazy for you.
I've never been to New York before. I mean, I don't know anybody there, and where would I live?
Don't worry about it. You can live anywhere you choose. You can stay with me if you want to. No problem, Steve.
Okay, let's do it.
That's it? Yeah. Hey! Oh, man, this is the greatest.
All right, that's a scene from The Scout from 20th Century Fox. It opens this Friday. Stars Albert Brooks, Brendan Fraser. You might remember him from With Honors, as well as Encino Man, School Ties. And it was directed by Michael Ritchie. Steve?
I thought The Scout was hilarious, and I thought it was hilarious for 2 reasons. One of them being Albert Brooks. I think he's the funniest guy out there who doesn't try to be funny. What I mean is he doesn't really play funny roles. He makes non-funny roles funny.
Yeah, I remember him in Modern Romance, where he's constantly breaking up and getting back together with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And the phone calls are just hilarious. And then he was in Defending Your Life as well, and with Meryl Streep.
He plays the same character, the same type of role, and he plays it the same acting methods as he has since he began in Taxi Driver back in 1976.
With one exception.
He's sarcastic. He's a sarcastic comedian.
With one exception, and I'll Do Anything. He had no feelings. He did not have wasn't anything like this character.
His humor is still based on sarcasm.
Right.
He's the kind of guy in most of his films, like Broadcast News and this film, he'll make a crude comment, insult someone, then he apologizes very quickly, which means he has a soft side to him as well. I think he's funny. I like the guy, and that's one of the reasons I like this film. The other reason is Brendan Fraser. I thought he was perfect as the goofball baseball phenom.
That makes you wonder whether or not Brendan is crazy during this film, because he starts to sing out loud and on the airplane, and he sings in restaurants and things like that. So we don't know if Brendan Fraser is crazy or not. Well, that's part of the other reason the film is so good.
Yeah, I think the reason that he is so good is because he's cute. And when you're cute and goofy to the point where you're almost pitiful, people tend to like you, particularly girls. They'll think you're kind of a goofy, cute guy. And in this character, the Steve Nebraska is just that, a goofy, cute guy. He's likable and that. But don't be fooled, I would say, by thinking this is a typical baseball film, because baseball really plays very little in this movie. In fact, the baseball action in this is more the recruiting and the scouting process.
Right, as opposed to, it's more about relationships between the two characters,
about the two
between
characters.
the scout and the baseball recruit.
And at the heart of his goofiness is a severe mental problem, you know, and he has to go to a psychiatrist. The Yankees,
is played by Diane Weiss.
yeah, the Yankees want to know if he is a psychiatric, you know, if he's psychologically fit to play because of some past recruits that Brooks has got, and he ends up going to these recruiting things. The film is a comedy, so it knows exactly how far to delve into this psychological problem, which is not very deep.
Right.
In fact, at the end of the film, the problem kind of just vanished, and it was kind of a little bit of a cop-out ending because it never addressed his problem anymore. But at the same time, it's a comedy.
It's a comedy, so
that's
if it
probably
were a
the best
drama or
decision.
something, I'm sure that it would change.
And unfortunately, this is coming out now. I guess it was going to be released because it would be the pennant race.
Right.
Got a baseball strike. Hopefully, fans will still go to see it. It's a funny movie. Had me laughing in the theater.
I'm going to give this film 3 stars.
3. I'm going to go with 3 as well. When I say it had me laughing in the theater, I'm usually in the theater very reserved. At home, I laugh. So if a movie gets me laughing out loud in the theater, it's pretty funny, and I was laughing at the theater.
Let's go ahead and take this phone call. Hello, caller. You're on the air in Film Forum. Do you have a question or comment?
My name is Russell, and I have a question. Why are they not having science fiction films like they used to? Because most of us now is like these humdrum movies like what you're talking about, but we don't see no deep science fiction films like it was during the 80s and the early 70s. That's my question for tonight.
Okay, the Time Cop is number 1 on the chart still, and that, to me, is a science fiction film. We've also got Generations, which is the Star Trek combination of The Next Generation as well as classic Star Trek, coming out near Thanksgiving.
But
we
the question was
we have
why?
Stargate.
The question was why, and I think one of the reasons is these science fiction films cost so much money to make nowadays. And back in the 80s, you weren't paying people $10 million a star in them and paying $60 million for special effects.
Right.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
That does have a lot to do with it. But we do have a lot. We have The Puppet Masters. We have Stargate. We have several science fiction films that are coming out now because the technology has gotten a little easier as well.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about there have been a lot of westerns out recently.
Well, every film has a genre, has its time, and it'll come and get popular. And science fiction like Star Wars and Close Encounters all came out. But then again, it was more economically feasible to make those. Nowadays, you're talking about $100 million to make those movies, and it's a lot of money to put up. So maybe that may be the reason. But still, a lot of these humdrum dramas are costing $50 and $60 million because they're paying these top actors $10 million each.
That's true.
So I don't know. All right, thanks for the call. Let's get on with our second film. Came out last Friday. It's called The Shawshank Redemption. Tim Robbins stars as Andy DeFreeze, who's a wealthy banker who's sent to prison for life for the murder of his wife. Now, Andy's actually innocent, but he's convicted on circumstantial evidence, partially due to his own fault. So he accepts his punishment like a man and resigns himself to the fact that he's going to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Now, once inside Shawshank prison, he becomes a very withdrawn man, but he does manage to meet another lifer named Red, who's played by Morgan Freeman. The film focuses on their relationship and also on how Andy kind of integrates himself into the prison administrative system by becoming the accountant and the financial advisor for all the prison guards and the prison warden. Let's take a look at a scene from The Shawshank Redemption, which came out last Friday.
Are you going to eat that?
Hadn't planned on it.
Do you mind? Yeah, that's nice and ripe. Jake says thank you.
All right, that's the scene from The Shawshank Redemption, what came out last Friday. Prison, I'd say more of a drama set in prison than a prison drama.
That's true, and this is adapted from the Stephen King, I believe it's a novella,
Short
Rita
story.
Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, and this is very, it has signs of this typical Steven Spielberg structure, which is also, to me, the same as Edgar Allan Poe's story
You mean
structure.
Stephen King.
Stephen King
Right.
story structure. And that usually his stories, along with Edgar Allan Poe's, 95% of the narrative is nothing more than this elaborate scheme to set up this nifty or shocking or startling conclusion. And in this case, it's a nifty conclusion because this is not a horror movie. So you have this all this build-up to this nifty little conclusion, which I really like. It's a short story. The movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, so obviously
It's not that short.
The new writers probably had to add a lot to this. And when I say it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, I think it's about 20 minutes too long. I began getting a little antsy around the 2-hour mark, and then began wondering if it would end at all.
No, maybe it was a prison term, Steve.
Yeah, prison term.
No, I enjoyed this film. The characters were very well developed. The screenplay was excellent. The especially performances by Tim Robbins as well as Morgan
I think
Freeman.
that he'll get an Oscar nomination. He does something dramatically different from all his other performances because it's just that, it's dramatic.
Right.
All his other ones were comedies or satires, and he really changes the pace here. He's really good as the withdrawn prisoner, Andy Dufresne. And Morgan Freeman, to me, you can pencil him in for an Oscar in anything he does. I think he's one of the better actors.
Absolutely.
And another guy that impressed me was William Sadler.
Oh, yeah.
Was one of the prison convicts.
Right.
Usually he's a bad guy. He was in Die Hard, too, the bad guy. He did pretty good. I think the film's engrossing. The conversations are interesting. It's interesting how they show the prison life, et cetera, like that. But like I said, maybe a little bit too long, maybe about 20 minutes to me.
Okay.
To cut it off.
I'm going to give this film 3 stars.
All right. I'm going to go with 3 stars as well. It's solid entertainment, but it's not for the no-brainer action fans out there. The key to this film is good characters, good story, good acting, not gratuitous sex and violence.
That's
so
true.
if that's what you're looking for, stay away. Otherwise, check it out.
Okay, we've got another phone call. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Film Forum. Do you have a question or comment?
Comment.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Okay.
About the Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
Okay, the movie was, to me, a pretty good movie and everything. It's one movie. The thing about it to me, though, after a while, I kind of got off the point of what they were trying to, I guess, do with the movie. After it became so long, I got uninterested about it, though.
So
That's
you're
what
in
I
agreement
said.
with Steve that it's about 20 minutes too long, maybe?
Yeah, it was about 20 or 30 minutes too long. The movie, it got boring kind of at the end.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did. But like I said, Stephen King and that his
It kind of gives
structure
you,
is.
like I said before, it
Yeah.
kind of gives you the impression of what it's like to be in prison.
Right.
Because-
I don't need an impression of prison, but it's, oh.
Yeah, well, like I said, they could have cut 20 minutes and had. Yeah, they could have cut 20 minutes and basically had the same film. There was a little long stuff, but he builds up this story to have this nifty little conclusion. It was nifty.
All
For
right.
lack of a better, as Kevin Costner would say, or did he say neat?
He said neat.
Neat. All righty.
Okay. Thank you,
Let's,
caller.
Get on with the show. Thanks
Well,
for calling.
we want to remind everyone that we have a special, we have a couple of special screenings coming up. We've been fortunate enough to have some of the motion picture studios willing to have us co-host sponsorships in a couple of the screenings that they're having out. If you're interested in attending one of these screenings, while supplies last, please send a self-addressed stamped envelope to A&R Productions. That's P.O. Box 49342, Atlanta, Georgia 30359. And that's A&R Productions, P.O. Box 49342, Atlanta, Georgia 30359. And we'll be able to send you passes to some of these films while supplies last.
All right, let's get on with the
top
10.
10.
What's coming? What's
These
doing well
are
this
these
week?
are the top 10 films, the Metro Atlanta box office. These are the films that you went to see this past weekend, so don't blame us for their chart positions. You paid money to see them. Number 10 is Quiz Show with Robert Redford directing, barely making it into the top 10, but only playing on 4 screens. Number 9 is The Next Karate Kid. This has Hilary Swank as the girl and Pat Morita as the karate instructor.
Pretty far-fetched, if you ask me.
Steve, you didn't get beat up by you didn't beat up on little girls when you were in high school either.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Number 8 is Melanie Griffith in Milk Money. This has Ed Harris, and Melanie Griffith plays a prostitute in this film. Number 7 is Karina with Steve's favorite star, Whoopi
I
Goldberg.
like Whoopi. I just don't like her in romance.
Okay. At number 6 this week is The Mask, finally dropping out of the top 5. This is Jim Carrey as the god Loki in this mischievous role. At number 5 this week is Natural Born Killers with Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis. At number 4 this week is Clear and Present Danger with Harrison Ford. Number 3 this week is Terminal Velocity with Charlie Sheen and Nastasia Kinski. It's the highest debuting film this week,
This one we reviewed last week, and we gave that 3 stars.
and that's why everybody went to see it.
That's why.
At number 2 this week is Forrest Gump, number 2 for the 9th week in a row.
And if you can believe it, it's now number 8 all time in the box office champs. It's past Batman.
I certainly can believe it.
I don't think anybody else involved in that movie could believe it.
At number 1 this week, for the 2nd week in a row, is Time Cop.
All right.
That's got Jean-Claude Van Damme in it.
All right. Well, let's get on with movies.
Let's get on with our
studio here. What are we going to do next?
Our third feature is Quiz Show.
Right.
Coming from Hollywood Pictures, this film stars John Turturro and Ralph Fiennes and is directed by Robert Redford. The film involves the scandals of the 1950s on the game show circuit and how NBC used the game shows for ratings. And what we've got here now is a scene from Quiz Show, which is directed by Robert Redford.
What if we were to put you on the show? Put you on 21 and ask you questions that you know. Say the questions that he answered correctly on the test this morning.
I don't follow you.
Just thinking out loud.
I thought the questions were in a bank vault.
In a way, they are. You want to win, don't you?
Well, I think I'd really rather try to beat him honestly.
What's dishonest?
When Gregory Peck parachutes behind enemy lines, you think that's really Gregory Peck?
That book that Eisenhower wrote, a ghostwriter wrote it. Nobody cares.
It's not like we'd be giving you the answers. Just because we know, you still know.
Right. It's not like you're putting me on the show or Al and pretending to be some sort of intellectual. I mean, you have put in years of study and erudition.
I'm just trying to imagine what Kant would make of this.
I don't think you'd have a problem with it.
Think about what this could mean for the cause of education. 40 million people will watch you on 21.
It's not like anybody has to know. Just us three.
It just doesn't seem right. I'd have to say no.
Just an idea.
Was that part of the test?
Okay, that's a scene from Quiz Show, which is directed by Robert Redford. It stars David Paymer, Ray Fiennes as the Professor Charles Van Doren, who was one of the people involved in the Quiz Show scandal, as well as Rob Morrow as the John Turturro as Herbert Stemple, one of the other contestants, one responsible for actually bringing the Quiz Show down.
It was weird. I'd never heard of the scandal, so I asked my mother this afternoon if she heard of it, and she actually watched it. She didn't. She was young enough where she didn't really care, about the scandal or not. And I thought it was interesting to see exactly what kind of scandal could go on, because a quiz show scandal today would almost be laughable. That'd kind of be like pinning fake wrestling on the World Wrestling Federation. I mean, nobody could care, because today you tune into these quiz shows, if you tune in at all, to see kind of half-naked sex goddesses promoting products. And the only scandal that could occur today would be who Vanna White happens to be sleeping with this week.
Or Bob Barker. The Price is Right.
Yeah. So. But back then there were not 52 channels to choose from, and these quiz shows were very popular, according to my mother, and I'm sure a lot of the older people out there. And there was a national passion for quiz shows.
And especially with all these brainy people, all the nerds and stuff, when they were winning these quiz shows. And John Turturro's part in this film is excellent. He plays the perfect nerd. He's got bad teeth in the film, and he supposedly knows all of these different questions and all of these different answers to the questions.
Well, that's why they got rid of him, according to this, because his ratings went down, and they had to get a new guy. I was drawn to the film out of interest, out of curiosity, and that's the main reason. I think, to me, that's the main reason to go to see it. I didn't really see any great drawing to this film as far as characteristics about the film that would make it unmissable, I should say, to me. I thought it was out of curiosity was the best thing to go to see.
Well,
see what kind of scandal could come.
But the performances are excellent.
Would be the only thing. But I hate to recommend a movie based on performances only, because unless you're an acting aficionado, you're kind of missing the point, because there's a lot of people that don't care about acting. The question is it entertaining? Did it entertain you?
This is also a question of scruples as well, though. It's a question of, if you had the answers, would you go on a quiz show like this?
Sure. I mean, to me, like at the end of the film, when the two producers says, who cares if we gave the answers? Everyone made money. People were entertained. That's the way, if that happened today, that's the way people would be. It's like, who cares if they had the answers? Nobody would care about it. But yes, the acting was very good. And but there's this buzz about this film being an Oscar contender.
I think so.
Maybe for acting and stuff, but if this is a contender for Best Picture, then I think Hollywood movies have not come out to be that well.
I think this
year.
is a 4-star film. I think based on the acting.
Yeah, but
based on
compare
the
it to Schindler's List last year. I mean, to me, this and Shawshank Redemption are just steps below Schindler's List. And I think Forrest Gump is the best film this year so far, and I think this is below Forrest Gump. So I like the film. I'm not saying it's bad, but I hate to think that this is one of the top 5 films of the year.
I think it is.
I don't think that says much about how good films are this year if this is one of the top 5.
I think it is. I think it's a very good film. I'm going to give it 4 stars. How about you?
I'm going to go with 3. It satisfied my curiosity in an entertaining way, but to me, see it only if you're curious about this scandal.
All right. Let's get on to our 4th feature.
All right, yeah, the 4th feature this week actually came out at the end of August, believe it or not, but it's still doing well in the top 10, and it's the year's most controversial film. This is Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers. Now, Mickey and Mallory Knox are hot on a killing spree, and when the public gets wind of them, they become hot news as well. It seems that the more people they kill, the more headlines they grab in these tabloid newspapers and sleazy TV crime shows. Now, Robert Downey Jr. stars as one of these hosts of these TV crime shows, and he's determined to make Mickey and Mallory the hottest thing since O.J. Simpson and Jeffrey Dahmer. A primetime interview would really help his ratings, so when Mickey and Mallory are finally apprehended, he seizes the opportunity to make TV history. Let's take a look at a clip here from Natural Born Killers that shows some of this outrageous film work that Oliver Stone decided to use in making this film.
Wherever we go, and whatever happens, Mickey, when I look up at the stars, I'll know you're looking up at the same ones.
Same ones, baby.
You make every day feel like kindergarten.
All right.
I think we should get a whole bunch of stuff because I need a whole new wardrobe. Because I'm a new woman now. Huh?
All right.
I'm a new woman!
The new woman!
All right, this is a scene from Natural Born Killers that came out, and to me, I think Oliver Stone has created an almost unwatchable film here.
Well, I think what's really interesting is that Quentin Tarantino, who wrote this, has written so many other films, and they all end up in bloodbaths. I mean, Quentin Tarantino, I don't think he can write a script without having people shooting at each other.
Well, I mean, that's not the point. And when I say unwatchable, I'm talking about the way he made this film. I think the story is good. I think the acting is good. I think all the performances are fine. But Oliver Stone has decided to make this movie like a 2-hour MTV video. MTV videos are 3 minutes long for one simple reason, that any sane person cannot sit and watch flashing images for 2 hours. This is like watching the drug scene from Altered States or Easy Rider for 2 hours. It's nauseating, and he's created a nauseating film. I think this is one of the worst films of the year, one of the worst serious films of the year, because you can't lump it in with like Friday the 14th, 13th, Part 20, because those are meant to be bad. This was supposed to be a serious artistic work, and I think he really just turned out a product that is unwatchable.
I'm going to have to say it's watchable, but only to a certain extent. But this plot has been rehashed. Juliette Lewis was in a film called California with Brad Pitt, and it has a very similar plot. I mean, the people that are just out there and they're just killing people.
Yeah, well, you saw the clip. A typical scene in this film is color scene for 5 seconds, black and white, grainy handheld, sideways shot, devil face pops up. It's too much. It's too much for 2 hours. And it was interesting. I looked through the press kit, and this is what the press kit says. The intentional disorientation causes the viewers to struggle to maintain bearings in this visual environment, shaped as it is by fact and emotion. I think what it does is cause viewers to struggle to watch this film. And Stone claims that he did this because of the success of JFK. He edited it in this manner, however, not to this extent.
Right.
But in JFK, when he cut from what they were saying to the grainy black and white,
or the Zapruder film, or
it was
something.
It was to visualize what was being said. It served as a purpose. I don't see a purpose here, even though Oliver Stone claims it's to show the emotions, the internal and external.
All right. So the film is
emotions
set in the 90s, but the problem is the filmmaking looks more like the 60s.
Yeah, it's just like a drug trip, and
so Oliver Stone still hasn't gotten out of the 60s.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
I think there's a good story to be told here. I think it could be done in a more serious way, but the way he chose to do it just drove me crazy.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with a half star on this film. I thought it was horrible.
I'm giving it 1.5 stars.
All right, that comes out of 1 star on our 4-star system. If you haven't seen it already, don't.
All right, let's take a look at our
Hey, so-
home video releases and pay-per-view.
This is what came out on. This is what's coming out on home video this week. We have The Wedding Banquet, which we gave 3 stars. Great film, I thought, and it's the Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. It's the same
director, and it's an excellent film as well.
We got Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, which was an HBO film. Was that with
Daryl Hannah? Yeah.
And Bad Girls,
which is the Western with all the women in it.
Yeah, and then Nightmare Before Xmas.
Christmas.
That's
a Tim Burton animated thing that you didn't really care for, but I liked.
Yeah, that's why I got 3 stars. On pay-per-view, we got Like Water for Chocolate, Searching for Bobby Fischer, which we gave 2 stars, 8 Seconds, which was the rodeo film about some famous rodeo guy. I can't remember his name. So we gave that 2.5 stars. And Greedy,
which is the Michael J. Fox and Kirk Douglas film.
Yes, and I thought that was a good movie. I'm looking forward to seeing that again.
That sounds good. Those are available on pay-per-view. Check channel 45 for details, showtimes, and costs.
All right.
That's about all the time that we've got here on this installment of Film Forum. You want to be with us next week when we'll have 2 feature releases. We'll be back to our old format. We'll have a Critics' Choice, and we'll also have a guest involved in the film industry. So stay tuned. And by the way, don't forget, if you're interested in being part of our screenings, send us something to A&R Productions, P.O. Box 49342, Atlanta, Georgia, 30359. That's for the screenings while supplies last. We'll send you a pass to a film.
And bring a friend.
Bring a friend. Yeah, the pass is good for 2. So
that's what,
those are advanced screenings, too. It's not just anything else.
All right.
So, like I said, we'll be back next week. 2 feature releases. We'll have our Critics' Choice, and we'll have a guest involved in the film industry.
All right.
So we'll see you next week.